Hey guys, welcome to day 21 of the Cyber Advent of 2024 by TryHackMe. I'm Aaron, aka Cyber Sensei Aaron. If you haven't already, leave a like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Today we're doing some reverse engineering. The learning objectives are understanding how the structure of a binary file, the difference between disassembly and decompiling, familiarity with multi-stage binaries, and practically reversing a multi-stage binary. We're just going to need the attack box and the VM today, so both of them. So go ahead and start those up while we go over everything here. So first of all, what is reverse engineering? Well, reverse engineering is simply the act of reversing binaries or executables to find out what they do and how they're working so that you can make sure that they're not malicious. This is used a lot in like analyzation of malware or attacks that are discovered using executables and binaries. This way we can further understand what the actual binary is doing and how it's working so that in the future we can create defenses to protect against these types of files that include a certain set of instructions or a certain sequence of things that are happening, and then this way we can protect against it in the future. So what are binaries? So binaries, if you did day 20, we talked a little bit about it. So binaries, what they are is a set of compiled source code in languages like C or C#, and this is what is used to run and execute applications at runtime. And .exe files are specifically and exclusively for Windows machines. macOS and Linux do not have these kinds of executable files. They're different. And so here we can see the different sections that most binaries will contain. So we have a code section which contains the CPU instructions, a data section that contains information such as variables and resources, images, other stuff that's going to be used in the application or executable that's running, and then import and export tables. And what these do is reference additional libraries which are used by the application at runtime. So pretty straightforward. Disassembly versus decompiling. So disassembly is essentially taking the binary as it's running and reversing it into actual assembly language. And these are the instructions that the actual CPU is receiving, and it's a very, very low level language. And that's when you would use disassembly, and you can use tools like IDA, Ghidra, or GDB to do this. And then decompiling is taking that same binary, and instead of getting the machine instructions in assembly, we actually get the source code that is being compiled at runtime by the executable and translating it to assembly. So this way it's a lot easier to go through and understand what's happening, but the downside of decompiling is we might lose variable names or runtime resources that are being used during the run of the application, and we wouldn't be able to see that here because we're getting the source code versus actual runtime instructions which disassembly gives us. And so here they give us like a pros and cons list or a comparison of the different ones. So if you want to, you could read through this to understand when you would use which, but typically I would say we're using both if we're doing reverse engineering, because why not? Here we go, multi-stage binaries. So this is how we see attacks happen out in the real world. So instead of having everything happen in one single executable file, which is a lot easier to catch, what attackers started doing is they'll break it up into different stages so that it's a lot more difficult to detect this attack happening, right? And here's an example. They have two stages, the dropper and the payload. So the dropper is going to be the initial file that gets downloaded or somehow gets placed on the computer they're going to compromise. And then when this is run, all it does is download the payload, which is the actual malicious part of the attack and the exploitation part. And then the payload will then execute and do whatever it's programmed to do. And here's a breakdown of an example attack involving multiple binaries. So for example, user gets phished, they download a malicious document, either a Word doc, we'll just say in this case, they open it, it has like random text in there themed after the phishing email, but what they don't realize is it's macro enabled, so it's actually downloading the actual script files and executables that are gonna compromise the system, and then the files are automatically executed and boom, you're now compromised. So that would be an example of a multi-stage attack using multiple different files, scripts, and binaries. So getting to the actual hands-on portion of what we're doing today, we're gonna first go through a demo. We're going to be looking at demo.exe, and we're going to be using a couple different tools today. What we're gonna be doing is decompiling some .NET binaries using ILSpy, and we're gonna run through this demo real quick so we can understand, the process and methodology, and then they're actually gonna have us do another file which is gonna give us the answers to today's questions. So let's go ahead and go to our Windows machine, and we'll go into demo here, and we can see if we right click this that it is an executable file. So we'll go ahead and close that. So we're gonna actually use PE Studio, and then we're gonna drag demo.exe in there. So, all right, so we'll open PE Studio up, and then once that boots up, what we're gonna do is drag the demo.exe file in there. All right, it is now doing analysis. It has done analysis. So let's see what kind of stuff we get in here. It's actually still going, but yeah, so here it gives us a bunch of metadata. We can see it's a Microsoft.NET, it's an executable, it's 64-bit. The file version is 1, and we have over here a bunch of different stuff. So if we click on indicators, it's probably gonna point us to some malicious stuff. So you can see here we have a URL called TryHackMe connect.png. Then yeah, that's probably the malicious part there, is it's reaching out to that website. But yeah, so let's go back over here. We dropped the file in there. They're pointing out some different things that we can see. So we're looking at the footprint section, and what's in this section is a memory space with different content of the Windows executable within the PE format. So it looks like this is a MD5 hash that they found for us. And then they're also looking at the indicators section here, which we saw this string URL here as well before we hopped back over here. And so this section's usually has important things in here depending on the file execution flow. And then if you're looking for artifacts like URLs, IP addresses, crypto wallets, it will all show up in here. So it's just like an easy way to come get quick wins and stuff like that, instead of sifting through all the different sections here. So we understand the file now. We have everything about the file, the metadata, what it's kind of in there, but we don't actually know what it's doing yet. And so in order to do that, we're going to open up ILSpy, and this is going to decompile it back to the C source code so that we can try to get a better understanding of what is happening in this code. So we're going to open up ILSpy here. All right, so we've opened up ILSpy, and now what we want to do is just click open here. And then we want to go desktop, demo, and then open that. It's gonna pop up as a folder over here, and we can see all that. So yeah, we see the code, and then here we can go to the main program, which actually show us here. So we can see this is the address we saw in PE Studio. So when you run the program, this is going to display in the console. Oops. Hello. Then it's going to wait 5 seconds, and then it is going to connect here, and then it is going to get that image file it just downloaded and display it. So we'll see this, it'll say downloading file, Then it will say file downloaded to the path that it downloaded to. And then what it will do is open the image, and then it will say if it was successful or not. And then it will say bye-bye, leaving demo binary. So if we actually just go and run this, you can see all that happening in real time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go here. Double click that. Yep, there's the hello. It is now downloading the file. It's downloaded, it opened, and then bye. So essentially, like, and there's the image. So there you go. That's exactly what we just saw in the code. So this file is working as intended. All right, so let's go back over here. They're kind of just breaking down the code line by line, which I just did. And then this is that's the web client. So they just kind of go into further detail about like what exactly these methods are, what they do. But for time's sake, I won't go too deep into it. If you want to do it more on your own, you can click these links and they'll take you to a better, more in-depth explanation. But overall, we know what this file does. So yeah, and then here they ran it like we just did, got exactly what we were seeing. Our task for the day now is to analyze the Wareville app.exe. So let's go do that. So ILSpy will just boot it up here. To open, desktop. And then while that's loading, we'll go back to PE Studio. And we'll just reopen a new PE Studio instance. Drag that in there. Let it do its thing. And we'll come back to that. Open up here. What do we got? Metadata. Resources. All right, so to have some more guidance, let's just go and see what the questions are. So what is the function name that downloads and executes files in the Wareville app.exe? All right, so let's see. So we got, okay, here we go. This is interesting. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So we can see the URL it's going to is marc2.thm over 8080. And then it's going to this, it's going to the downloads folder, and we're calling it explorer.exe. And then we're downloading that file. So the answer to the first question is going to be download and execute file, because it's asking what is a function name that downloads and executes files. And so as we see here, it is downloading this file from this URL, and then we're actually starting it up right here. So this is going to be the answer to the first question. The next one is, once you execute Wareville app.exe, it downloads another binary to the downloads folder. What is the name of the binary? We also see that in the same function here. If you scroll to the end of the second one, it's right here. Explorer.exe is what we're calling it. And you can see here, the path we're specifying is the user's download folder. And I did not mean to click that. So we're getting the folder path of the user profiles that's currently logged in, their downloads folder, and then we're putting it explorer.exe. So that's the answer to the second question. What domain name is the one from where the file is downloaded after running wareville.app or app.exe? So again, same location. We can see it here. marc2.thm over port 8080 is the domain name. This is specifying the path on the domain, so we don't include, that's why we don't include this. This is the port, so we don't need to include that either. We just need this part right here because that's the actual domain. Then the stage 2 binary is executed automatically and creates a zip file compromising the victim's computer data. What is the name of the zip file? Okay, so we haven't actually explored that yet. In order to find the answer to the question, we need to actually get the second stage binary. So how we would do that is if we go to form 1, in the download and execute function, we can see in order to download the binary for the stage 2, it goes to this website here. So all we're gonna do is just copy that and we are going to go to that page and download that binary so that we can analyze it. Alright, so I'm loading it up and we've seen, do you want to save explorer.exe? Yes. We'll save it and we'll go view and downloads. Alright, so just to make sure this is downloaded. Okay. So we'll go back to ILSpy now and we're going to open up this binary in here. Okay, file collector, program, boom, and we got some new stuff here. So here what we're doing is we're looking for any files that end in these 5 things, and then we're going to the pictures folder, and then we're going to type to the command line interface that we're searching for files in the pictures folder, and then we're going to create a text, call it collected files, temporary folder created called collected files, and then we're going to search all the directories. Then we're going to copy all the files that we find and put them into our collected files folder. And then we're going to create a zip file of this collected files. And then once we do that, we're going to copy it to pictures. And then we're going to upload the zip file to the C2, which is seen here. This is the C2 URL. So to answer the question, it was asking what is the name of the zip file comprising the victim's computer data. It's going to be collectedfiles.zip, and we can see that right here. The next one is going to be what is the name of the C2 server where the file is uploaded. We can see that in the upload file to server function, which is right here, and we're just going to copy the domain name, which is that portion right there. And that's it. So if you enjoyed, you can check out another room that's reverse engineering here on TryHackMe. But that is the day. So to recap, we learned how to decompile and disassemble binaries using PE Studio and ILSpy. And then we actually went in and did a hands-on lab with the executables they provided. We analyzed the Warville app.exe file, found out that it was just the first stage in a 2-stage attack. And then what that initial one does is go and download explorer.exe, which is actually the malicious payload, which then when we downloaded it and analyzed it, we saw collected all the files on the computer, put it in a folder called collected files, zipped it up, and then sent it over to the C2 server. And that was the gist of the two-stage attack. So overall, pretty cool day. Got to do some reverse engineering, got to experience what that's like, and yeah, learned a lot. Hope you guys learned something too. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to follow along for the rest of the days, I mean, at this point we only have about 3 more days after this, so we're almost there. Go ahead and drop a subscribe, and then also share this with someone that you think would benefit from this knowledge. As always, Cyber Sensei Aaron, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.